Hello there and welcome to part one of what will be a mini series of short videos where I'll discuss how I approach and play American Civil War epic battles using the Black Powder rule system. And the reason for this, the channel's been going for what, 15, 16 months now. And the mainstay of the channel has been the American Civil War epic battle reports I've put out there and some of the hobby updates. Been the most popular videos on the channel, which is great, thank you. But also I've had loads of questions and queries coming in about the game, about how I approach it, how I play it. So I thought I'd just put a mini series of videos together, just short videos that just go through some of those questions and cover it off for the wider audience really, because they've been very specific questions from individuals. So this is not a how to play Black Powder, it's more about specifically looking at, if you've picked up one of the starter sets, you've probably got one of these booklets. And what Warlord do, they've got these nice little supplements that they do that really give you the flavour for the period, for the warfare, you know, covering things like the battlefield, how units and troops would have operated, and some of the special rules around that, and weaponry, etc., that are on top of the base rules for Black Powder. And this, you might have this as well, this is Glory Hallelujah, which was the main supplement that Warlord do for their American Civil War system. And basically what's in here is a cut down version of this. This has got a lot of the kind of, I guess, the background story of the war itself as well. So I'll focus on this. So I do hope you find this useful. Please do leave comments as usual, or contact me if you want to, if you've got any other queries. And I'm hoping to cover off a lot of the questions I've had over the last 14, 15 months or so. Right, so I'm going to turn the camera around and get onto the table. So today, the part one is going to be about ranges and movements. Okay, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks. Right then, let's talk about ranges. So in the supplement, it talks about you can do a number of things. You can either keep the ranges that are already in the main rulebook, or you could halve them, or you could use centimetres, and it really does depend on your setup really. But I started with centimetres, so I used to use, so for example, rifled muskets were 24 inches, I would just use centimetres. But because I play a number of game systems and they all use inches, I've now just changed it over to half ranges in inches, and I find that a lot easier. And the main constraint for me is my home setup. It's a 6x4 table, which is fine, but the width is 48 inches. Now, if you can imagine, a rifled musket is 24 inches, that's half the board. So, you know, Black Powder, you want to have movement, you want to allow space so you can actually move troops, flanking manoeuvres. And if your ranges are too long, then you can just be shooting from like turn 1, turn 2. So I think halving the ranges does have a big benefit, particularly if you're playing on a, you know, what I would call a standard size kind of setup, 6x4. So what we've got here, we've got a Confederate, some infantry here, eyeing up some Union across the way there. Now these are armed with smoothbore muskets, which is 18 inches in the main rulebook. So again, you just halve it down to 9. I think that looks fine to me. And one of the reasons I would say that is in the war, the American Civil War, you know, battles were still fought at quite close range, you know, 100, 200 yards from each other. So you can imagine double that, it starts to become a bit too long, it's a bit too far away. The guys here have got the rifle muskets, so again, just reduce that down to 12 inches. And again, I think aesthetically that looks about right to me. If you think about it, that's a quarter of this width. So you can imagine 24 inches, double that, you'll be able to shoot from pretty much back here and be hitting troops up here, which I think, yeah, doesn't allow much manoeuvrability. Even for artillery down here, I've got an artillery battery here. I mean, smoothbores in the main rulebook have got a 48-inch range, which is basically the width of this table. So you can imagine you could put a battery here and just cover the whole board, which again doesn't really work for me. So I've positioned some Union artillery over here that's 24 inches away, and as you can see, I think aesthetically, I think that works pretty well for the epic scale. So very simply, halving the ranges works pretty well. Okay, so let's have a look how that affects movement as well. Right then, so let's have a look at movements, and also I'll quickly cover off as well command ranges as well. So again, I'm just halving everything down. So again, in the main rulebook, a infantry unit can move 12 inches. So we're going to just halving that down to 6. And again, it just makes a lot of sense if you think about it. I've just deployed this brigade roughly 6 inches in on the edge of the board, which is typical. If these had a 12-inch move as infantry, and this commander here was successful getting three moves off from one order, that would be 36 inches. And you think about it, they're already deployed 6, well that's 42 inches in total they could move, which is virtually the whole table. And again, unless these are all Olympic sprinters, I think that's a bit unrealistic for the scale and the size of things. So again, halving it down I think works pretty well. So one move would be just 6 inches, which should take you to there. And if you were successful off and got 3 moves off on one order, that would be up to 18 inches, which, as you can see, is still pretty good. I mean, you can, in one order, pretty much cover half the board from a typical deployment area. Now, I find that on average, you're probably getting a couple of moves off. So again, bringing that down to just 12. But again, as you can see, that's still a quarter of the board in one order. And if you're playing a 5, 6, maybe 7 turn game, you'll easily be able to get around the board, get some manoeuvrability quite easily using those half ranges. And it gives you that tactical thinking around the board. Whereas if you had all that range, you could easily just get where you want, really. And also command ranges. So again, 12 inches in the main rulebook. So just everything's halved. So, and just to show you, so this would be the typical command range. 12 inches would basically mean he could order troops here, and also, if I put it this side, all the way over to here. So the edge of this unit here could be right there. And I think that's way too far from the commander. So again, just 6 inches makes it look a little bit more realistic. So just having that sort of range from there and over to here as well. So again, just bringing these guys back over. I think that from a brigade perspective, I think that's more realistic from an orders and command ranges. And it just means you've got to be thinking about where you place your commander at the end of the turn. If they've got a 12-inch command range, you could just put them pretty much anywhere. But when it's 6, you've really got to think about where you position your commander at the end of a turn to make sure you can maximise your orders. So I do find that 6 inches works really well for that as well. And also commander's movement. Again, commander on horseback is 48 inches in the main rulebook. Again, you can get anywhere. So again, just halving that down to 24. Even 24 gives you a really wide, a lot of flexibility. Basically from here, he can move up to here at the end of a turn, which, is still a lot of flexibility, but keeping that command range down to 6, I think, works really well. Right then, okay, so that's the end of this video. So I hope you found that useful as a kickoff. And I'll be back for part 2 soon. Thanks.